You would know, obviously, that languages evolve and, new dialects would emerge. So one unique dialect in South Africa is SePitori, a blend of multiple languages. So it is growing beyond Tshwane. We'll tell you in just a moment why. And in Pretoria, SePitori is entering formal settings like schools, work and businesses. To unpack this, a very interesting conversation, I'm joined now by Prof. Thabo Ditsele, a sociolinguist at the Tshwane University of Technology. Prof, thank you so much for your time. And you know what? I spent the better part of the last 3 years in Pretoria covering the Senzo Meyiwa murder trial. And every time on the streets of Pretoria, I've picked up SePitori, and it's very interesting, but I struggle to understand, what is being said. You really have to be from the areas around there to understand, what is being said. So talk to us a bit about SePitori and how did this originate and it's really become popular?
Thank you for inviting me, Chris Elder. The history of SePitori dates back to the 1800s. It's just that it has come to national, attention in recent years.
Yes.
It started around the 1850s, believe it or not.
Wow.
When the Voortrekkers, who later became Afrikaners, settled in the area now known as Pretoria. So at the time, the local community was that of Bakhatla of Hammanskraal. Because Pretoria was at the time the furthest to the north, a newly established town. Job opportunities that opened up were taken up by people from Limpopo or Northern Transvaal as we later know it. And these people came with a language, different varieties of Sesotho sa Leboa, Northern Sotho or Sepedi. So the first contact of black South Africans was between speakers of varieties of Northern Sotho and speakers of a Setswana dialect called Sekhatla. So that's when SePitori was born. So it developed throughout the 1900s and voila, in the 2000s, it's now attracting the attention of South Africans. Now, I have to be clear that the variety of SePitori that you had as you were covering the Senzo Meyiwa tribe is a variety that is mostly spoken by the SePitori doesn't have one variety. It has different varieties that are spoken in different domains.
Yes.
So the one that we normally talk about is the one that is trendy, that you see in Mapiano, that is spoken by the youth. There are other varieties that are spoken in other places, like in church, at staff, in the banks, you name it.
That's incredible. And, I'm really surprised to learn that it's been around for so long. And, it seems to be making its way into, as I read in the intro, put together by our producers here at the SABC, it's making its way into schools, into workplaces, and, it's become a language, if I can, a dialect spoken by a lot of people in the area.
It is spoken by a lot of people. I mean, if you look at, if you try to map it, it is spoken in a very wide region. I would call it a greater Pretoria area or greater Tshwane area. It stretches to the north up to places like Marapiani, places like Bela Bela in Puma. In the northwest, where I live, it is spoken all around Hartbeespoort, where I live. In the whole of Madibeng, or most of Madibeng, the language is spoken. So it's a cross-provincial a language, but with its a hub, its epicenter in Pretoria. So it has, even my estimation is that it's spoken by more than 2 million people. But because in South Africa, we tend to look language through the lens of standard varieties, we often misclassify the people who are first language speakers of SePitori because the posture from Stats SA is that when they collect a census, they focus on languages that have official status, but they ignore languages that do not have official status as SePitori. So the more than 2 million people who speak SePitori tend to take other languages that really are not their first languages. They tend to take Setswana, they take Sepedi, they take isiNdebele, they take isiZulu, languages that really are based on what their grandfathers used to speak as opposed to what they themselves speak.
And I mean, how does SePitori differ, from other urban dialects like Tsotsitaal? I'm not trying to be condescending at all, but, there's also Tsotsitaal, and you see a lot of the evolving of languages where, we've now put in what we think is, or how we feel comfortable speaking our languages.
Yeah, remember the beginning of my conversation with you, I spoke about the different varieties of SePitori. So the one that is spoken by the youth tends to have a lot of Tsotsitaal terms.
Yes.
This is no different from other urban varieties. I can give you an example of a variety that I call Jozi Sotho. This is the Sotho that is spoken in Soweto, in Ekurhuleni, in Randfontein, so that variety, just like SePitori, there is a variety that grandmothers in Orlando will communicate in, but men sitting at a street corner, standing at a street corner, will throw in Tsotsitaal words because they don't want other people to follow what they are saying. SePitori is no different. If you bump into men still standing at a car wash in Soshanguve and Mamelodi and Harangua, they would still speak SePitori, but then the choice of jargon, the terms that they will use are the ones that are trendy amongst them. So a grandmother who was born in Lady Selborne, who relocated to Mabopane in 1969, would not understand what they say, even though she also speaks SePitori. It's just that she would speak a different variety that is used in certain domains.
Yeah, Prof, very quickly, we've run out of time. What impact, does SePitori have on cultural identity and even social integration in Pretoria?
It's massive. It's massive. If you look at what people like Shampunaiza, the comedian, people like Kagiso Lidiga, the movie filmmaker, they have spread the language, they've popularized the language. Often people ask me, Prof, what do you think the future of SePitori should be? And my answer is always consistent. I am a boy from Rustenburg. I am just a researcher on SePitori. I leave that to the speakers of SePitori to decide whether they want the city of Tshwane to recognize it, because its recognition should start at its hub. That is the city of Tshwane. The future looks good for SePitori. It's growing in leaps and bounds, and I couldn't be happier having started doing research in SePitori since 2012.
And I was just about to mention that. Thank you so much, Prof. What an insightful conversation. And certainly, I do believe, that it will spread to different areas as well. And, young people in particular in Pretoria, I've heard, speak SePitori. I've always tried to understand how the language itself has changed. Thank you so much, Prof. Thabo Ditsele, a sociolinguist at the Tshwane University of Technology. He actually did his postdoctoral research on the SePitori language for more than 10 years. You should actually hear it when you're in and around Pretoria. Very, very interesting.